Welcome to the Reasonably Effective podcast brought to you by myself, Uncommon Fossil, and 10 Types.
Hello, everyone.
And we're up to episode 20. So we're really building up this catalog of top tier Pokemon TCG content. Hopefully, you're enjoying it. Hopefully, obviously, you found us if you're listening to us. We are on our YouTube channels and on most podcast platforms as well. If you want to leave us comments to interact with us, our YouTube channels are the best places, which are just at Uncommon Fossil and at 10 Types. And there should be a link below
Well,
in your.
youtube.com/ yeah,
Okay, yes, go to YouTube. Yes, correct. You got to go to YouTube for that. Um, and so, big week for Pokemon. With announcements in the official Pokemon TCG forums. I hopefully we provide a link in the notes to these two releases in the forums. It's good to kind of keep an eye on things. I like to do that just to know what's happening. You can also listen to people complain about, hey, I migrated to live, and how come my deck list didn't go, and how come my old cards disappeared, even though they're still there. But that's beside the point, I guess. Just pay attention, and people will help you through the forums. They are
or not.
helpful.
They're not that helpful.
Well, yeah. I mean, part
You'll
of it
probably get
is,
some like snarky comments, and then
yeah,
like someone will be helpful, and then someone will be like snarky, and then you'll end up with kind of knowing what you're doing. But realistically, when it says migrate, read the thing, and that will answer most of your questions.
right. They make you click these links, these OK buttons like 5 times with text, and we all gotten used to just ignoring the text. But the text is important for some of it in this case. And there's like somewhere 5 to 10 questions that get asked multiple times a day, and that's partly why the answers get snarky because they're repetitive questions with answers there. But these announcements are useful, and there's two things happening this week which you're probably aware of. And if not, now you'll get the news. One, live is being updated. It's being updated on Tuesday, June 6th, just so you know, at 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So you have to figure it out for your local time zone. And it's down for 8 hours because Pokemon just does not do this quickly when they update the game. And there's game fixes within it. They're adding the ability for the Paldea Evolved Pokemon to work, although you can't utilize those cards until Thursday. We'll talk about that in a second. But so they're doing some updates, doing some fixes. But unfortunately, I got to say they list out the fixes, and they're not really hitting most of the big fixes. The things that are breaking the game, not selecting cards, game freezing up. It doesn't seem like they're addressing that. So not going to get into the specifics here, but I think I just have general concerns what the state of the game is going to be. Hopefully, the update doesn't cause trouble. But as the game goes out of beta, which should happen Thursday, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a lot better than where it is now.
Yeah, instead of them fixing it, they just decide to publish it, which doesn't really make any sense. But that's what they're doing apparently. So we'll see what happens. People are starting to get very frustrated. So we'll see what happens. If any drama is gonna erupt, but that'll be interesting. For me at least. So
Yeah, like up to this point, there's always been the excuse it's a beta, so we got to put up with stuff. I think Thursday it's coming out of beta, although their language is a little weird on that, I got to say.
well,
So
they just
once it's
didn't
out of,
say it was coming. They a few weeks ago they said it was coming out of beta, but
yeah,
they haven't talked about it recently, and it's quite literally what the biggest thing to happen to the Pokemon TCG in years, or at least one of the biggest. So like
yeah.
the fact that they're not like bragging about this awesome thing that they're doing, it means that they might be a little embarrassed about it, or that it's not happening, or just they forgot. I don't know.
Right. I mean, because the update still is advertised as an update to the beta, and it is an update to the beta for 2 days, but really, unless I don't imagine there's a new update on Thursday, there's been no announcement of that. So this is the update for going out of beta 2, I imagine, which they're not saying. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it goes well. Fingers crossed. The other thing that's not in this announcement here, but if you've been using PTCGO, the old client still, and believe on Tuesday, June 6th, they're shutting down the server. So even if you've downloaded the game, you cannot play in the game. So if any last minute prepping, do it and be prepared to just not be able to play PTCGO ever again this week.
Yep.
Um, So for good, for bad, that's where we're at. So then the other news is Paldea Evolved is coming out. You're probably aware of that. I get confused with the timing with the IRL cards of when they can be purchased and when they're legal for
Yeah,
tournaments.
I
But with
believe
it,
they can be played on the day that they come out for PTCG Live, or within a day
yes.
of that, or this is at least how it was in PTCGO. That is the day that they are available for purchase in stores.
Mhm.
So that would be June 8th. It may actually be a different day depending where you live. And uh, in I believe around 2 weeks you can play it in like competitive tournaments. It's not a huge deal. There aren't that many competitive tournaments. And
Mhm.
generally in online tournaments you can play it immediately when it comes out. And of course,
Right.
in general play you can play it whenever. So, but yeah, it will be coming out. You can, I believe, purchase it um, within
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah. Now the announcements here, I'm going to talk about that. With live, it comes out Tuesday, June 8th. Within that online within live, June 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So do your own calculations where you live. And it says here the booster packs are available in the shop. Card codes can be redeemed. um, how they evolve cards can be played, and the battle pass resets, which is certainly important. We should be getting two new. Obviously, should get two new decks, but one in the free, one in the premium battle pass. They should both feature Paldea Evolve cards. At least I hope so. And then the ranked ladder resets that day as well. It used to be in the PTCGO days, they had the one thing where you could play it like on the ladder, but then the in-game tournaments you couldn't play it till 2 weeks later. But there are no in-game tournaments, so that aspect goes away. It
Who
all
knows? Maybe
happens
there will be though. In if it
with the
releases.
updates. They're gonna put all these things in on Thursday that put all the features of PTCGO and all the wish lists for it live. Yes, we
Yeah, I
may
plan
get
on
that.
playing it on Thursday in Pokemon TCG Live. I plan on doing a GLC draft in Pokemon TCG Live in a custom
Yes,
format with 40 card decks.
I imagine too, and it's going to work well on mobile, and I'm sure it's going to come to your Switch too, because that's a Nintendo product. So why isn't it on Switch too? But
Exactly.
anyway, we get what we get, and we may get upset, but it doesn't do us any good, right? But that's where it's at. It's coming Thursday, and Paldea Evolved. I think it's coming out of beta that day, and then I think that's enough about live, right? So we want to actually talk about something more enjoyable, and we're going to talk about the new cards in Paldea Evolved because there are a number of meaningful cards, right?
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, the base set for Scarlet and Violet was good. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't awful. It contained some good cards, some very solid cards, but it
Hmm.
wasn't the best set we've ever seen. Paldea Evolved is probably not the best set we've ever seen, but it's very good in
Yeah.
my opinion here. And by the way, we are on the obviously if you're an audio listener, this doesn't matter, but well, it could matter if you want to check it out. We're on the Justin Basil website, which should
Yep.
be linked down below in the description to at least the I don't know. It should be linked down below in my description or your description or something.
Right,
Um,
and we'll try to put it in the podcast player also. And it's a good site to keep track of for these things. There's multiple pages. One of like the important cards, which we're going to be looking at. He also will give all the new cards coming out, so he gives a lot of information about what's happening.
yeah, it's definitely one of the best resources for cards. But anyway, so we're looking at You're looking at the utility Pokemon section, right?
Right. Within this, there's a section called for players. He goes through the cards that collectors wants, and then a selection of cards that he thinks are most more for players, which starts off with utility Pokemon. So we'll kind of work through all these four player cards, and maybe I think you have a few extras that you think should deserve attention. The first one here is Oricorio, so a basic Pokemon, Fire type, 90 HP, and it's there for its ability. I'm not going to read off all the stats like attacks and stuff for these cards if that's okay. You can throw them in if you want, but it's got passionate dance ability. Now I don't know if the translation's correct in all these cases. We
Yeah,
will
I don't
see.
believe it is, but we have seen all these cards out in English, but these are not the English then necessarily the exact English translation, but it will have the same effect.
Right, what it does or the attack should be correct here. So once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from your active evolution Pokemon. So
Oh, I
it's a
want to say
basic.
one thing real quick.
Yes.
So Uncommon Fossil has not. Well, how much you have not looked at these cards a ton, right?
I've looked at them briefly. Some of them, and certainly haven't looked at all the cards. So yeah, these are kind of quick takes for me. You've studied them more, correct? So you have a more developed idea about these cards.
Yeah, I've actually, if you want to go check out my YouTube channel, I've talked about a lot of these already. In fact, I've talked about all of them, I believe. But I've not talked about them with other people and done an in-depth review on all of them either.
Yeah, so maybe the way it makes sense is I'll kind of we'll see who reads them off, but maybe I'll give my first take on it because that's kind of a first impression that's more likely people to have. Then you can correct me, tell them why I'm wrong, or give your more thought out view on it. So, or Choreo, it's a 90 HP basic, so it's obviously you can get it with Nest Ball. It's also livable, searchable, so that makes the card more useful too. Ability on a basic you can get and play easily may have been include heal 20 from your active evolution. I'm not sure, honestly, what decks are going to want to play it, but it's certainly a consideration. Like I've been working on Oink Alone this week, which not the smartest move on my part, but you give things a try. It's an evolution that wants to be tanky. Maybe it goes in there. Decks there's decks that can consider it.
Yeah, I think it's good in Hisuian Guja V-Star. I actually told you this before, and I think it's good because Hisuian Guja V-Star is actually a tanky evolution Pokemon, and this is kind of comparable to Radiant Sarina. So Radiant Sarina, for those of you who don't know, it's of course a Radiant Pokemon, so it will take up your only Radiant Pokemon. However, it does essentially, well, okay, it does heal 20.
Oh, it does a lot
Yeah, it does more. It heals 20
more.
from all of your Pokemon in play. So
Right. Not just the active and not just an evolution, and also here your active basic. So
yeah,
it
it's
does
better,
more.
but in general, we've seen Radiant Sarina mostly in evolution-based decks.
Yes.
But I think it makes the most sense with Hisuian Guja V-Star because that's a very tanky Pokemon. I don't
Hmm.
know. This card's not amazing. You can use multiple of this ability, and you can stack it with Radiant
Right.
Sarina, so you can get a lot of healing. So I think it's good in a straightforward Hisuian Guja V-Star base list.
Yeah, I mean, card decks where you've seen Radiant Serena could have it, right? I think Lugia has played it. Certainly, a deck like Arceus could play it, I guess. But it's a consideration.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I don't think it's that good though.
no, it's useful to keep in mind. The next card here is Baxcalibur, a Stage 2 Water Pokemon. And again, these are utility Pokemon, so here for the ability, Absolute Zero. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a basic Water energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So a very powerful ability, I would say, right? When
Yeah,
you have
we've seen
in,
this a lot of times though.
we have, but obviously it's not always around in standard. And this is for water. It's a stage two, so a stage two is obviously definitely a downside, right? You've got to either get the stage one, or you probably play rare candy, which and you have the basic, the stage two rare candy. So you take up a lot of deck space. You also have to get the pieces and make it happen. So consistency is not great, but you only need one of them in play because it's right. It's not a once per turn. It's as often as you like card. And it goes. I'm just looking at it. It goes to any of your Pokemon, right?
Yeah,
In
for those of
play.
you who are familiar with the Blastoises of the past, it's the same ability as both the Rain Dance and Deluge Blastoise. It's the same ability as we've seen on a Hydreigon and Emboar, some Magnezones. It's kind of like Cherim or Frostmoth as well. We've seen this a number of times, but it is identical to Blastoise.
Hmm.
So, yeah, basic water energy to any of your Pokemon.
Yep.
I think this is good. Well, I think so. Looking at the synergies, there's
Hmm.
actually another card that this card's directly meant to be with, which we'll talk about later. And it's actually
Hmm.
the most hyped deck from the set. I'm not sure if I don't necessarily think it's the best deck from the set, but it's very good. But anyways, Baxcalibur has synergy with Irida because Irida
Hmm.
searches for as a supporter that searches for an item card and a water Pokemon, that being presumably Baxcalibur and a rare candy. So assuming you have the basic, which I want to say is Frigibax, but that might be the stage one. Yeah, assuming you have the basic in play, the next turn you just play an Irida, you get the Baxcalibur straight into hand.
Hmm.
Um, and it pairs with the Chien-Pao, which is the new EX attacker, which we'll talk about later.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
But I think the Baxcalibur is quite good. Also, I kind of compare it to Gardevoir EX because Gardevoir EX
Hmm.
is kind of similar. They both accelerate tons of energy. They're both stage
Yeah.
twos as well. Gardevoir does admittedly have like the best line in the whole game, having another powerful Gardevoir, Gallade,
Hmm.
and some amazing Curlias, as well as some pretty alright Raltses.
Right.
So, but Excalibur, I think, is it's a similar idea of a Pokemon, and I think it will. I think it's not bad by any means.
No, it'll see play. There is the item we'll get to that also helps you get the energies in hand in this set. So yeah, there's options. I can think of other things for it too. That's not the, we don't want to spend too long on that card, but it's certainly a viable card for sure. Then Shinx, a basic lightning Pokemon, 40 HP. It has the ability, which is here translated as Loud Howl. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your active spot, may have your opponent switch their active Pokemon with one of their benched Pokemon.
And it
Um,
also only has 40 HP, so that's quite low. It is level well searchable, but
right. But in a world where people like Sableye and Lost Zone, um, it's a very easy target, and then they may take other prizes or at least do meaningful damage elsewhere. So 40 HP is not great,
it
I
is
would say.
bad. It's very bad.
Yes, there's not many Pokemon less than that. And the ability, I'm not thrilled about it. Your opponent gets to choose what they do. Um, you have rope as an item that forces your opponent to switch, which is probably better, right? It's not livable, searchable. So if you really have to make your opponent switch out of the active, get to the bench, it has value. I'm not sure that how important that's going to be to happen, right? And also we don't have air balloon. We don't have a tool to give free retreat right now. We don't have net, so you have to get out of active because it does 10 damage for its attack. So you don't want to attack with it, and its HP is nothing essentially. So you can't leave it in the active. You got to retreat to the bench again, which means you're having to get an item to switch or have the stadium beach court, which is good, but it's a stadium. Some people will be bumping that from you. So I don't love the card.
Yeah. Also, with Beach Court, I think so. In my eyes, there are two ways this card could be good. One is, of course, if you want to send something to the bench. Well, it's obviously to send something to the bench,
Right.
but the other use is the attack. No, so the main use is to just like disrupt your opponent and like annoy them,
Yes. Hmm.
send their main attacker to the bench, and then they have to like play a switch or retreat to get out of it. That being
Yeah.
said, if you want to do that every time, you probably want Beach Court. But then they're just gonna send up something that gets free retreat with Beach Court and then retreat.
Yeah.
So that's not great. And the other option is in like a control based deck, to
Hmm.
like really annoy your opponent a lot. Of course, it's like a similar idea, but I think there could be okay. But there are ways to gust, just like straight up
Hmm.
gust. There are actually a lot of ways. There's Spiritomb from Scarlet and Violet if you want an attack. There's of course Boss's Orders. There is Pokemon Catcher, and there's Cross Switcher. So you have a wide variety of options to switch, and then of course
Hmm.
Escape Rope, which we talked about earlier. So I feel like Shinx is not great. Also, even if you want to evolve into a Luxray, which isn't great. Like there are some good Luxrays, but they all like skip
Hmm.
evolution, so it doesn't really matter. The other Shinx have like 70 HP, so those are better.
Yeah, I mean we'll see there are some control type cards in here, but I would think even for a control deck, there's better options to make this happen, most likely. But keep it in mind. I'm not sure. I'm not going to rush out to try and get that card in live for sure. The next utility card here is Spiritomb, another basic Pokemon 60 HP, so livable, searchable again. 60 AP is not terrible. It's not great, but it's a lot better than 40. So its ability, Pitch Black Disaster. As long as this Pokemon is in play, basic Pokemon V in play, both yours and your opponents have no ability. So obviously, we're moving to the world of EXs, more EXs. I don't know the exact numbers, but we may be about doubling the EXs with the second set coming out, and they're going to become more and more dominant. So the fact that it's only Vs, it would have been nice to have come out sooner for sure. It obviously is going to disrupt Mew. That's with the Genesect V. That's a big hit. For sure. And there's a few others like your the water Pokemon blanking on the search
Lumineon,
Luminion V. It stops that and some others. So
mostly just
but
those.
right, because a lot of the abilities then are like the V stars abilities are
Yeah.
big and that
You can't
doesn't
you can't use
impact.
your boy Entei's ability though anymore.
Oh, that's true. My Entei and yeah, and look, we do have. that a card to replace Cape. So those tanky Luck Entei as well as the Suicune and the Lightning one,
Yeah.
may see some playback.
You can stop Blissy's ability with this. That's nice.
That it can't, get out of its
Special
special conditions.
conditions when you attach energy.
So if you need a card, if you're worried a deck the Mew's going to crush you, you might include this, right? Because it's easy to toss it in. But other than that, I don't see it having a lot of value.
Yeah, I think there are a few ideas with this card. One thing I want to say is I've looked at Japanese tournament results and or wherever this card's out, and some people are definitely playing Spiritomb. In fact, it's seeing a bunch of play.
Okay.
So when you talk about Mew counters, there are a lot. But the one is, of course, this, and then the other big one I say is Drapion. Drapion just like literally kills me or just one shots it. But then you do lose 2 prizes in return, so it's only okay. In some situations, that's not enough. But Spiritomb doesn't guarantee that you beat them anyways. So I'd say others are fair Mew counters, but also Path to the Peak. It kind of like doubles down on Path to the Peak, so you could play Path and Spiritomb. And there's actually another ability lock card that we'll be taking a look at either. And so I think you can like make, if you want some like easy disruption, Spiritomb solid. And also Luminion is quite good. It is still the main utility basic. There's another one that we'll be looking at in this set, but it's not as good as Luminion, I wouldn't say. But yeah, I think Spiritomb's okay. It also does interestingly have a hit and run attack, which is kind of funny. It's bad though, so but I don't know. I think Spiritomb will see play. I just don't know if it's. I think it's a solid disruption card, but I don't know. Mew's also not seeing a ton of play. It's definitely dropped off, and Luminion's okay, but it's not like a defining factor in the meta either.
Right. So it's may have a place. I don't think it's super crucial right now, and you can play it in your Lost Zone deck if you're worried about Empoleon V, right? So there we go. It doesn't shut down your Comfy. So, but again, that's not used now. But it's there as an option. So now we're moving to some evolution Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
More utilities here, right? We have Tinkaton, which is a stage 2.
Actually, couldn't we? Oh yeah. So its ability is discard 1, draw 3. We've actually seen this ability before on. We've seen it a bunch of times, but we've seen it on in standard format Hisuian Samurott, which has not seen any play, right? Or essentially no play. Right. And then its attack is 180 if it says special energy for Psychic Colorless, which is it's not great. I actually want to talk about this card later though. So.
Okay, and it's a stage 2, and I think you said that like the stage 1 isn't particularly useful for its ability. Like if it was one that the bit stage 1 was a discard 1, draw 2, and this was discard 1, draw 3, then it has a place. But the stage 1 isn't any good, so a stage 2, you have to get rare candy involved. It's probably not a card you want. Oh, the ability is good, but on a stage 2, I just don't think it happens. And then of course it's not livable, searchable, which makes things more difficult. You can only get it really with Ultra Ball.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it later, though.
Okay, you have a use for it. I'm going to jump downward in the list to go do Pelipper. We'll save the...
No, Pelipper.
Pelipper.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Pelipper. So it's a stage 1.
My favorite type of pepper, a Pelipper.
So Pelipper. And with its Rumor on the Wind ability, that doesn't... I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense. We've seen some weird ability translations, though.
Yeah, that's the type of translation that just seems like it's not going to be the official one at the end. But when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may either search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, put it into your hand, or shuffle your deck and put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. So I haven't read this before. So obviously search for a...
So pretty much it's pretty much you either you search for a supporter
simple
from your deck, or you search your discard pile for a supporter and recover it. So it's
but with the second option, you get rid of your hand before you get that supporter, right?
No, or the second effect reads, put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. So it's either Tapu Lele GX or something, or the Tapu or Luminion V or something like that.
Oh,
Or
okay.
the second effect is going to be a Versus Seeker or Eldegoss V, any type of thing that just directly puts the supporter from your discard pile into your hand.
Okay. All right, I got you. I was thinking you went down to a one card hand in the process, which could be interesting to get back a research or something. But okay. So obviously getting a supporter in the hand is good. There's no doubt about that. It's the stage one, which is better than stage two. It is 120 HP, which for a utility Pokemon, you'd like it to be 90 HP, usually so you can play level ball with it. I would think at this point you have Ultra Ball or like a coin flip card to get it, or the one item we're going to see reprinted in this set, which is one of my favorites, which you'll say is bad, but that's
Oh, yeah. I
okay.
was like, what is that card?
I'm
Yeah.
prepared for you to say
Wait,
it's
we're
bad.
talking about that card?
It's on this list. You see, Justin Dazel's website says it's an important card, so
I
and
don't
I
think
have
these are
proof that,
important cards. They're just cards.
well, it made the cut, right? But look, you'd rather it be less than 120 HP.
But you'd rather
Um,
less than 90 HP.
I'd let it be right. I'd let it be
120 is not awful. Like
No,
it's
once
okay.
you're over 90, you'd rather it's 120 is better than 100, right? 100 is the number you really don't want. So, um, you'd like it to be 90. At least I would. There's no net in format, which net would make this card so much better, right? Because then you can scoop it up, play down the basic, and you can evolve it again the next turn. So with no net, once it's played down, it's basically stuck in play. Um, so it's useful. Um, I'm not sure how useful it'll be.
Yeah, I think so this card honestly is one of my favorite cards from the new set. At
Mhm.
least of the cards that people aren't really talking about. People aren't talking about this card. They're talking
Yeah.
about it some, but not too much. The fact that you don't have a net or a consistent way to search it super easily, I think hurts it a lot. That being said, I
Hmm.
think if we get either of those, it will be in a very good spot. I think this card is very solid.
Yeah.
Notably, there are actually a lot of things to talk about with this card. One, I'll mention a card that we'll talk about later, which is Iono, which is essentially a reprint of N,
Hmm.
that actually makes this card worse, which is kind of weird, but it does because it works well. It gives you access to any supporter you want from your whole deck,
Yeah.
whether you've played it or you haven't, assuming it
Hmm.
hasn't been like lost zoned or prized. Um,
Right.
but it pretty much gives you access to any supporters, so you can run tons of one of supporters. So it's really good when so your supporters aren't versatile at all. But of course,
Hmm.
Iona or N is a very versatile supporter, so it's not as useful here. But I think it's still very useful. You can run tons of
Hmm.
one of supporters, including your favorite like Avery, but you can also run
You can play your
one.
mustards.
Yeah, hey, stop spoiling my videos coming out.
No, I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, you can do mustard. You can do you can just run one research, one judge, one Roxanne, one.
Can have that deck list of 41 of supporters, which you
Exactly.
just.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you a question. I know I do like the card a lot. It's intriguing. No scoop up net is a big blow. Is there a card in expanded now that's similar to this or not? Because obviously, think about it for
Um.
expanded where we have net. Even that is more exciting for sure.
Well, there's what do you mean? There's like Versus Seeker. I
Right.
don't know you.
But
What do you
there's not
mean
a
by?
Pokemon that gives you the ability to get a supporter from the fact that it goes from discard or deck is really is very nice.
Yeah. So from what I know, there's no card that lets you get it from either the discard pile or the deck. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Mhm.
However, there's some other cards that Palpar is competing with. In fact, in standard format. First of all, there is
Okay.
Altaria, right? As well as Luminion
Yeah.
V.
Hmm.
The the Glade that search for a supporter. So these things all search for supporters. I'd say Altaria is the
Yeah.
most similar, or Glade. So those are, in terms of searching for supporters, they're better because they do it more consistently,
Hmm.
or there are
Well,
other
they do it every
basics.
turn. It's not. This is only on play, so you can
Yeah,
do it
yeah.
once, and
Well,
that's
well,
it.
Luminion doesn't do it every turn, but
Right.
and then in terms of recovering supporters, there's actually a Bayonet, right? The one that goes to the Lost Zone when you use it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and so the Bayonet has essentially the same effect, except you can choose to use the ability. It's not on play, so you can store it, and also it lost zones itself. In some ways, that's bad because I mean, you can't use it again, but it's also kind of good because now it clears off the bench space, and if you're playing Lost Zone, of course, it's good to put stuff into the Lost Zone. So I think
Right.
both the Bayonet, like you could just play Bayonet plus Altaria, and honestly, you might just be in a better spot. But I feel like this Pelipper is like a 2/2 line in the deck. We just throw
Hmm.
down one Pelipper during the game can be very nice because it gives you a lot more versatility. But then, as you said, the only way
Yes.
of searching is Ultra Ball or some other less consistent cards. So I'm not entirely sure, but I like the card, and I
Hmm.
predict at some point it will be very strong. And when it comes
Yeah.
out, it'll
No.
be okay.
Right. I mean, it's definitely a card to keep in mind. It'll be interesting to see how I use it and how other people start using it. Now we get to a couple of EXs under the utility. We have Tinglu EX.
Actually, let's skip
Um,
Tinglu for now. It's also
uh,
an attacker, so
okay, so then Squawkabilly EX. Can I talk about that one then?
yeah, I guess you can.
All right, it's got an ability. It's an ability show off. Once during your turn, you may discard your hand and draw 6 cards. This is a basic. Well, and it makes sense. It's a basic. I'm gonna read the last part here. You can't use more than one show.
Well, no,
Oh,
the
because it's only the first turn, and then you can't use more than one show off each turn. So,
yeah, so you
but
can
it's
only
only
use it
during
on the first turn. So you can only use one throughout the whole game.
right, and you can't do it another turn unless they add a card that resets it to be quote your first turn again. I don't know if that would be the case, but
Sudden
probably not.
death, sudden death.
That's true. That's a new game though, right? I think. Well, I don't know,
That is a
but
new game. Yes.
it's essentially to Dene GX, except you can only do it turn one. And the other difference between the Dene GX was an on play ability. This is an ability that you can activate from the bench, right? So because especially now without quick ball, you have nest ball in battle via P pass. So a lot of the ways you're getting basic Pokemon to play is directly on the bench. So I think they've taken that into account to making it not an on play ability like it might have been in the past, which is good. Um, I personally don't like cards that you can only use one turn in the game, but they certainly have value.
Can't you use
It
most cards only one turn?
well, there's only one turn that's ever an option, right? Like Battle VIP
Yeah,
Pass and
yeah.
such, which is a good card. I get it, but I always like to avoid it when I can. Just I like cards that work at a later turn if that's when I get it. It's obviously tremendous ability aside from the turn one limitation because the Dene GX was a tremendous one of the best cards ever. At least more. It's on the short list of most important cards to play. How useful it is it going to be? I'm not sure because that turn one ability, right? Limitation. Um,
Yeah, I think
we'll
it's
we'll see.
I like it a lot. And I think it's like turbo-y. Honestly, I'm really excited to play this and expand it because I'm going to be playing Donk, so I'll do that. But also, yeah, I think it's a very I think it's like very powerful, and
Hmm.
it honestly has like great synergy with Battle VIP Pass, which is a card that a lot of other people like a lot. So I think Squawkabilly is going to be very solid with that. I think it fits nice into the meta. It's not amazing. It's certainly vulnerable. It only has 160 HP, which isn't great.
Right.
So it's vulnerable to being KO'd. But I think Squawkabilly EX will see play. I
Hmm.
think if you're playing deck, like a lot of decks just want to set up and are looking for that little bit of extra oomph. One of the decks that we're
Yeah.
actually going to be looking at, we're going to be talking about some is Reggie Draco V Star, and that's a
Mhm.
deck that struggled. But I think something like Squawkabilly EX will just allow it to be a little bit better because it lets it set up a little better. So I think Squawkabilly EX is very solid. Nothing amazing, but I think it will see serious play.
Yeah. I mean, the attack is nothing to get excited about. So, and at 160 HP, that's low for today for a multi-prize Pokemon, even for a basic. So
Yeah,
that's not great. So you'll have to think about it, right? And I can't imagine you're ever going to play more than one in a deck, right? Because
yeah.
obviously you can't use more than one at most. I mean, if it's prized, you just kind of live with it, I would assume.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I guess if you got to have it, you could put two in the deck, but
Well, I feel like so. See, we can talk about now your favorite deck, right? And what's your favorite deck?
my favorite tech deck.
Deck, yeah.
Well, I've been working on cast form. I don't think that's what
No,
you're
cast
talking.
farm,
Oh, it
yeah.
is. That's true. Cast form. That's true. Cast form. Discard your hand. Hopefully, you get a bunch of stadiums. Turn one.
So
That's
you
true.
could play two Squawkabilly in a deck like that, or in which we're gonna be talking about. There's another version of like the Mad Party or Night March deck, which could play two
Hmm.
copies, um, because you really want to hit it, and then you just like discard the other copy. So
And there is the energy retrieval I mean, the retrieval item coming out for Pokemon and Energy, so you can get things later in the game that got discarded that you didn't want discarded too. So which helps with playing this card. So anyway, it's definitely it'll get some use. What and where it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Um, Moving to the attacking Pokemon now. So we have uh, Meows Scarada. Is that how you say it?
I think it's Meowscarada.
Meowscarada. Okay,
Yeah,
that
you're pretty
sounds
close. You're pretty close.
okay. I guess it does sound better your way. It does have an ability. Let's see, Magic Boutique. You may discard a grass energy from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and put 3 damage counters on it. So 3, whereas we have the Inteleon VMAX, right, that does 2. It does 2 to 2 of them, though, right? This does 3 to 1. So that's interesting. So this is a stage 2 EX. So stage 2 obviously is a downside, but 310 HP, so that's a plus. So you can get multiples of these on the bench and just kind of discard grass energies, do a bunch of damage. Okay. And then for colorless attack, Nail Scratch does 100 damage plus. If your opponent's active Pokemon already has the damage counters on it, it does 120 more. So it does 220, but the ability only hits the bench. So that means you'll have to either have damaged it before with the ability or have something to move damage counters around, right, in order to make that part work out. And then 220 is okay, but I'm not loving 220 damage, I would say. So the ability is interesting. I'm not sure how good I would
Yeah,
say. I don't
and
see
this card is, of course, reminiscent of another grass stage 2, right?
Grass Stage 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Which one?
Decidueye GX. It's
Okay.
kind of similar. People are comparing it to that some, and mostly because Decidueye GX didn't do a lot of damage, but yeah. Meowscarada EX. What are your thoughts? Because I know what I think.
I mean, the damage level's not bad, but it's certainly not great. I would think I would want it if I have a good grass attacker and just spreading damage to the bench. I did play a little the Spidops EX, so maybe, but then that's a lot of bench Pokemon. You want to have a lot of these in play. You gust them up with your Spidops and you smash away the bench with this until your opponent just probably rage quits on you. Go ahead. What do you got?
So I think the idea here, there are a few ideas. And actually, we're going to look at another Pokemon in a second that kind of has synergy with it, but probably not. So, of course, this is very similar to the Inteleon VMAX. I think it's actually super similar. You can stick a double turbo.
Mm-hmm.
You're only hitting 200, but
Right.
that's not like awful. And
No.
so, and one, you're also, as you said, you want to move the damage counters. You're playing Radiant Alakazam. I think you play that, and then you play basic grass energy to ping, and then you play Cheryl. So it functions very similarly to the Inteleon VMAX deck, except that it's a stage 2. So I think it's just worse.
Right. I mean, it's
Yeah.
only 2 prizes, so that's the upside. And then also,
But
if
if your
you're
whole point is to, like,
Cheryling,
not die, then it doesn't really matter how many prizes you give up.
well, yeah, but eventually you get knocked out, right? In this one, you can get 2 knocked out, and you still don't lose the game, right? So, I mean, it's still a plus, giving up less prizes. But to me, the big downside, besides being a stage 2, which is worse, you have if you Cheryl, you're discarding your special energy. Whereas with the Inteleon, the
Yeah.
energy goes back in hand. So you can only play 4 DTEs, and then you're out of DTEs. So that's a problem with a deck that's supposed to be tanky and attack a lot also.
Yeah, I think this. I honestly, I don't think this is amazing. I think we should actually move on to the next one, which is Ting Lu EX, the fighting one. Do you see it?
I got to scroll down for that one.
No, up Ting Lu EX.
Oh, that
one
was the one we
missed.
skipped before,
Yeah.
right?
So
Okay.
I'll read it out
ahead.
here. It's a
Yes.
basic stage or basic EX Pokemon with 240 HP, so pretty big here. It's fighting
Yep.
type as well, so there are ways to bulk it up even further. And as long as this Pokemon isn't the active, your opponent's Pokemon that have any damage counters on them have no abilities except for Pokemon EX. So you could ping with Meowscarada EX to damage them. Which is like okay, I guess, but and then you have your attack Land Scoop for 3 fighting, 150, and put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And then of course turning off its abilities. And I want to talk about, I'd say, the obvious combo card here to set up the damage counters. That being Hawlucha, putting 2 damage counters on, or 1 damage counter on 2 different of your opponent's bench Pokemon.
Yeah, it's a very solid Pokemon. So it's a basic. It's not one of these like stage twos like I've seen some, which is a
Yeah,
down definite
I think there were
negative.
5 stage 2 EXs in the set.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it's good that they're making them. Obviously, I don't know that we're going to want to play them a lot. The ability is very good. Um, right? So obviously, not showing off EXs is kind of weird, right? So when is it good versus bad? So if there's a because as EXs rise more, that ability diminishes.
Yeah, this is very
Um,
clearly them trying to encourage people to to help push the EXs to be better. I think.
yeah, but the attack's solid for sure. So
I mean, it's not
yeah.
that good. The attacks, it's okay.
Well, for a card that's shutting off abilities as its main thing, the attack's not bad.
Yeah,
Is that
it's very
that's
usable.
what I'd say. So I mean, it's three fighting energy. How you get those on is its own
Yeah,
challenge, but
probably the with Koraidon EX, right?
I that's what I was thinking. Yeah, or you can always do your Claydol, right?
Yeah, or
Like I was doing.
yeah, or you could use Gutsy Pickaxe as well, which isn't
Yeah, not
very
consistent.
consistent, but it's an option, I guess.
But I think this is a solid card. Not sure that it's going to be overly strong, but it's definitely solid, and it should be at its strongest now, right? As EXs grow in numbers, it drops in its effectiveness.
Yeah, I think so. Um, I do like this, but I'm not sure. It's kind of like Galarian Weezing and like the turning off abilities.
Hmm.
There are some interesting ideas. We could just like play healing cards to counter this as well.
Right,
Notably, there are various options, but I think
right.
Tingaloo EX is like okay.
Mhm.
You could play Picnic Basket, just regular Potion. You could play Fresh Water Set. I think that's the right card. Is that the right card?
I'm not sure.
I think is that even I think it got reprinted. I don't remember. He has like 20 from each of your Pokemon. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, we'll see. And there is the new item coming out to heal too, so we'll get to. So
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah. That's
but
not gonna really save you here though.
no, not necessarily. But it's an interesting card. I don't know how good it's going to be, but it is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
I would agree with that assessment. So Skeledirge EX, I think, is the next one here.
Yep.
Let's see. So two attacks. So the first one for one fire energy. It's a stage two, another stage two, 340 HP. So going very tanky though, right? Are there any cards with more than 340, by the way? Just
Uh,
quickly.
well, nothing that's standard legal.
That's what I meant. Okay, so 340s. So it's a very tanky Pokemon. And only two prizes, so that's good. For one fire energy, does Vitality Song 50 damage and you heal 30 from each of your Pokemon. So that's a way to get out of the other ability lock thing too, right? So you can
I
heal.
suppose so.
So you can but you can heal, and obviously it's tanky, so you're healing 30. So that's not bad. And of course, that's a one energy attack, so you could Cheryl and then just manually attach by turn. I like that. And of course, you do have things like Magma Basin and what the one that accelerates to the active,
Yeah, it does
the
kind of seem
stage
kind
one.
of silly to Cheryl and then use a healing attack though.
It does, but
Like
I'm just
50
I'm just
isn't
thinking.
that good.
No, it's not. But my point is 340. They're not one shotting you, so you could afford to Cheryl occasionally, right? Because you're not getting one shot much, as long as water's not strong, of course. But so let's see the other
Yeah,
attack
yeah.
for two fire energy, burning voice, 270 mind damage. But then this attack does 10 less for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So you want to keep the Pokemon healthy, which is why you might want to Cheryl it too. If your opponent hits into you, Cheryl, you do have the ability to get two energies on it, even if you Cheryl, right? So which
Yeah,
could be
or
important with this
because
deck.
you're saying arm moves just moves fire energy from your bench to the
Bench
active.
the active, right?
Um,
And Magna Base and attach one by hand. Yeah.
yeah. Or you could still with the arm rouge.
Hmm.
Uh, you can go and switch, play like a switch or whatever, and
Hmm.
then send your another Skeletor into the active, and then move the energy off, and then Cheryl, which is also an option to maintain the health of the Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be smart about it, the retreat cost is three, which I didn't mention. That's a high cost there, which isn't ideal, and so you're having to use a rope or a switch I think, to get it out of the active. So, which you got to get into that too. But look, I like fire Pokemon. I do like the Magna Base and those options, and it's very intriguing. I got to say, I definitely want to try this one out.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty good. I think I just realized there's a Pokemon that's not on here. As I said, there are three. Or sorry, there are five Stage 2 EXs. Only two of them made the list.
Okay.
But yeah, and I think it's time to move on though to the big
Yeah.
dog or whatever this thing is. It's a snow leopard, something like that.
Could
So
be, yeah.
it's Chan Pao EX here.
Yep.
With its first of all, it has an ability. This is the big card, by the way. That I imagine if you've heard anything about the set, this is probably the card you've heard about.
Yep.
Xian Pao EX, its ability Trembling Frost once during your turn if this Pokemon is in the active, so you can use multiple Qian Paos as well, but you need to switch in and out. It does have a retreat cost of 2. But once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may search your deck for up to 2 basic water energy cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This is reminiscent of one of your favorite cards, Capacious Bucket.
Right. Which was great, right? Being able to search for 2 energy.
It was good. It wasn't great.
Well, compared to when you only had energy search, and this is the only way to search for 2 energy cards, and you had the Intelligent Engine, of course, right? It was quite nice.
Yeah.
And then I'd quick ball away, and I'd use my Melanie, and then I just win the game with Ice Rider. But those were the good old days that have gone forever. So
exactly. And then its attack here, which is actually very good, and I believe the same as Raichu V's attack, but for water here. For 2 water on this basic Pokemon, 220 HP. But it had Hailblade does 60 damage. So you discard any times. So discard any number of basic water energy from your Pokemon. So it doesn't need to be basic. But then does 60 damage for each water or for each card you discarded in this way. So of course, if you discard 4, that's 240. 5, that's 300, which is enough to one shot most things. Including the aforementioned Skeletor's EX, and then 6, that's one shotting essentially everything. So yeah, in the end, of course, this is going to be paired with the Excalibur to accelerate lots of water energies.
Right, and we have ways to get energies into hand from the discard pile, so you can discard them, a couple different items to get them back into hand. The one energy retrieval that gets 2 into hand, a way to get more also. It seems solid. I honestly don't. I think the number of pieces to make this work, I think it's got more promise than it's actually going to deliver. Personally, I think it's just going to be slightly overly complicated to work.
Yeah, it does somewhat resemble Rayquaza VMAX, which isn't ideal. But
right.
I think
at least it's only one type of energy, which is a plus.
Yeah, it kind of is like Raichu V as well, which shouldn't see too much play. I think Qian Pao EX is very solid, though. There's also a card that buffs HP, which some people are pairing with this. I don't know if I love that, but you could do this. You can also just use it primarily for its ability, and then use other water attackers. So I think Qian Pao with Excalibur, as well as some other water Pokemon. That's what I've seen lists. Not too many. I haven't looked too much in detail, but I've seen them. And the main idea here is that you just do Qian Pao, Excalibur, and some other options.
Yeah, so it can be an attacker or it could be a support Pokemon to get the energies into hand. Obviously, I would like, if that's the case, I would like Air Balloon because I need to get it into the active and switch out every turn. So that's going to be tricky too.
Yeah, its retreat cost of 2 isn't ideal, but...
Right, because it's a basic, so Beach Court would do it.
Oh, wait, I actually need to mention one other card then, which is actually a really interesting card that has seen essentially no play. Skater's Park, right? Your favorite card?
Sure.
Yeah, no, Skater's Park has an interesting effect that says, I don't remember if it's only basic energy or special also, but it doesn't really matter for this. Pretty much it says when you retreat, instead of the energy going into the discard, it goes into your hand. So that means you can just re-accelerate it right again. So then it doesn't matter, and you can essentially retreat for free.
That is true. That's a good point. I forgot about that card because, yes, it's seen almost no play at all. I've looked at it at times, but never I've been close to playing it. So maybe, I like that. A chance to play something like that is always fun.
Yeah.
So interesting. I think it's probably going to under deliver, but we'll see.
I think it'll be solid. I think it's going to be. I think it'll be top 10. I think like low end of the top 10 is what my call. In fact, now I'm going to say for live, I think the 2 decks are going to be Qian Pao EX and a Ting Lu EX. We haven't seen all of them, but that's what I predict.
Okay, I haven't looked at enough. I think that's reasonable on what we've seen so far. We'll
Yeah.
see.
That's not
Uh,
like a hot take. That's probably like the most obvious thing, I think.
yeah, I mean, hopefully that they're new cards, right? Hopefully they don't disappoint there. Shall we go on to the Wattrell, which is with the Unified Wings attack next?
Yeah, and then there's Murkrow and Flamigo as well, which we need to talk about. I'll tell you. It's quite simply it's an attack called Wings, Unified Wings or something.
Hmm. Yep. Well, that's what it
It's
says here
wait, no,
anyway.
wait, read the description of the attack.
Oh yeah. So, well,
Yeah,
why don't you read off what it says in the full text? It's very
okay,
funny.
the full text here, translated by presumably Justin Basil, says the attack name is Unified Wings. This attack does 20 more damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile that has the Wings of Unity attack. So, of course, Wings of Unity and Unified Wings are not the same name. They are supposed to be the same name.
Right.
And
Or if it's
looking,
like this, it does 0 damage.
yes.
But
So I'm looking at it. I'm trying to figure out what it says in Japanese.
it's right.
I'm
So
assuming
anyway,
it's supposed to be the same thing. And there are
I
three of
assume
these.
so.
So if you have only one of the Wings of Unity attackers in play, um, and then you have all the other, you can have 11 in the discard pile, you're going to be
Yeah.
hitting 220 damage. You can also have all 12 in the discard pile in addition to something like Ditto in play to copy the attacks.
Yep. Hmm.
And then you can be hitting 240. Of course, now I think, and of course, this is like Mad Party, right? Or Night March. However,
Right.
there's a major difference, or a lot of major differences. Of course, Night March was a while ago, but it has the same number of cards as Night March. So
Hmm.
it has one less card with this attack compared to Mad Party. So it cannot hit as
Yeah.
hard. And Mad Party was not that good. It was okay, but
It was right. It was at best kind of borderline top 10. It was a playable deck, but not a top tier deck. But and obviously less damage is a big problem.
yeah. However, Mad Party and Night March both had abysmal HP. And oh, by the way, all three of these are basics, so you can attack with any of them. But
Yep.
two of them have 60 HP, and one of them has 110. So that's fine. That's not amazing. 60 HP
Hmm.
will be your opponent can KO two of them with a Lost Zone, but it's
Right.
not as bad as it could be. Not as bad as the Night March or Mad Party ones. Um, and that's very intentional. So
Yep.
you could just stick with the 110 HP one as well. So we see that, and then the typing is actually interesting here. One of
Hmm.
them is colorless, and then one is dark, and one is lightning. So of course, colorless hits no weakness, but lightning hits weakness on
Lugia.
Palkia, yeah, but Lugia mostly, and Palkia as well as some
Palkia.
other
Yeah.
water things,
Hmm.
which is very solid. And then Murkrow here, dark type, hitting weakness on um, dark weak Pokemon like Mew VMAX and Great EX, which
Right.
are very good. So that's probably the
Yeah.
best typing. These are quite possibly the best types to hit in the game. At one time, they definitely were. I'm not sure if they still are. And then
Yeah.
their attack cost here. So Flamigo and Watchville are both two colorless, which you can pay with a double turbo energy as well as other methods, but double turbo is by far the
Right.
best. And then Murkrow here is a dark energy, so that's even easier to pay. It's just one
Hmm.
basic dark energy, and that's really nice. And so you can have actually like one of the big issues with Night March and Mad Party was that you'd have only four energies or maybe more, but with like downsides. Now you can have as many energy as you want, which is really nice. Some slight awkwardness, but it's not that bad. And then lastly, the Flamigo here, the one that is colorless and has the most HP, has an ability that
Hmm.
says when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during a turn, you may search your deck for up to 3 Flamigo, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. Presumably, you'll follow this up with a professor's research to get the rest of your Flamigos into the discard pile, or possibly put another into play if it's your best attacker in the matchup.
Right.
It's a very solid ability.
It is. Obviously, you wish you had quick ball in form rather than nest ball, because nest ball, you don't get to use the ability being on play. You're going to need, if you don't draw into it, you're going to probably have to use Ultra Ball or something that's a bit of a coin flip or a bit more random to get it. So that's the one downside um, with it. But yeah, no, that's very good. And with the two colorless energy, you also will probably play Raihan on a deck like this. You may play Dark Energy and Raihan, right? Which can also pay for the attack besides the DTE. And then with Ditto, you're copying the attack. So as long as you have the Murkrow, you're just going to attach one dark energy for the attack with that. So you don't need to worry about the special energy on your Ditto also. So I do like it. The typing's good. You can one-shot the Dark Week and the Lightning Week Pokemon, the multi-prizers with it. So people are going to like this. Or, I came out when Mad Party started playing, kind of when Mad Party was starting to be a thing, and I liked it. And a lot of people like that type of deck, so it's going to see a lot of play. We'll probably see it a lot on the ladder. Be prepared to see a lot of these decks around. Even at times, it'll probably get played beyond how good it is because people like these type of decks.
Yeah, and there's a few other things I'll talk about later. Although this is going on for a little while, but it's fine. We need to
Yes.
get hyped for the new set, so I'm fine. I still got all the energy.
Okay. Good.
So there's something else I'll talk about with it later that's a bit broad and isn't necessarily good either, but yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about the next attacker, Pikachu EX.
Yep.
For lightning colorless, it does 220, and then on a coin flip, you discard all energy from this Pokemon.
That's just not good, I gotta say. I mean, everybody loves Pikachu, but I mean, 190 HP is fine these days. 3 energy, yes, I can use the electric generator to power it up, but would I really rather have this than my Miraidon EX? I don't think so. If I win the coin toss,
It does have free retreat though, which is nice.
yes, discarding the energy though on the coin toss, I don't like that. I got that. That's pretty harsh, right?
I think this is like just a worse version of Miraidon EX. I don't exactly know why it's here, to be honest.
Yeah, well, they wanted to print a Pikachu card because it'll sell.
Yeah, no, I
Right?
don't know why it's on the highlights page though.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, right. I mean, Rhydon EX is probably it's be in the same deck. It's taking the same slot. That one's probably better. I guess it gives you a pivot. So maybe in a deck, a lightning attacking deck, you want to pivot. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't despise this card, but it's directly outclassed. Now
Yeah.
we have another basic EX here, which is actually a terrestrial Pokemon. So it is immune to bench damage. Yay, that doesn't really matter. Actually, there's a bench sniper we'll talk about, but it doesn't really matter.
Well, don't forget yet. Whatever. I forgot the name already, but the one that shuts off ability of Pokemon with damage, then that starts to become important. Although it doesn't have an ability, so I guess
Yeah, well,
that
most
part
of the things
doesn't
are
matter.
benched. Yeah, and also it's most of those are like benched damage counters is how you do it. But
Okay.
anyway, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's Dedenne EX has low HP of 170. And has actually 2 attacks here. So for 2 Psychic, you do Tail Swap, move all damage counters from one of your bench Pokemon to your opponent's active, and Wonder Shot 170, discard an energy from this Pokemon. To me, this is like a very solid tech option in Gardevoir EX, and I think that's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, moving the damage counters is nice. There's the one in the starter deck, Radiant Serena, right? There's the it's with a stage one that does the same thing, right? Move damage counters for a bench to your opponents.
Altaria.
Altaria, right? Which
Yeah, this
obviously that's a single prizer. Yeah, so with this is a multi-prizer, but it's obviously a potentially valuable attack, and the second attack is right. The discarding
Yeah.
energy is fine as long as you have Gardevoir EX, which I guess
Yeah.
you might slot one in the deck. You're probably right
Yeah,
about that.
I don't love the low HP on a 2 prizer, but I
No.
think this might see niche play in Gardevoir EX.
I would think, yeah. I mean, I think if I play it in Gardevoir EX, then you want one copy, and you don't want to bench it till you need it, right? Because it's going to get gusted up and knocked out too easily. So then, and obviously with Gardevoir, you can accelerate to the active, retreat it to the bench anyway. So switching is usually not a problem. You use the attack one turn you want it, and you're happy.
Yeah, I think if you have you have a Gardevoir EX or a Mewtwo Union that's been smacked into, you go ahead, you retreat into Dedenne EX, and they'll go ahead and one shot your opponent's active, which is good, I guess, but yeah,
Well, it is, and
is.
you've healed that other Pokemon off too, right?
Yeah,
This one
so
will
I
get
think it
knocked
can,
out.
yeah.
But
So it gets a lot of value, but in niche scenarios. So
yeah, no, I don't love it, but I see a place for it.
yeah. Next up, we have Lycanroc EX here, a stage 1 fighting, and there aren't really any other amazing Lycanrocs in the format. During your opponent's, so it does 140 for fighting colorless, and then during your opponent's next turn, even if this Pokemon is damaged by attack, even if it's knocked out, put 10 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon, essentially giving it 240 damage, but I don't know. I don't
Right.
think this is that good.
No, and
It's good
also,
against Lost Zone though. It's good against single price decks.
well, it's okay. But well, the problem I was thinking Lost Zone, but it does 10 damage, and you want it to do 11, right? If it did one more, it'd be
Yeah,
much better.
yeah,
You knock out the Cramorant, right? So you
yeah,
leave a Cramorant with 10. That's not good. And of course, if you get gusted out of the active, you lose that effect. So, um, it's and it's a stage one, not a basic. It's 3 energy. I don't love it, right? And you don't either.
yeah. I
So
think this one's kind of bad.
yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe it'll be something, but I don't not getting excited about it. So then the last of the attacking Pokemon here is Caparaja EX, another stage one. This one has an ability Bronze Body, and it's 300 HP, so that is a tanky stage one. I like that. So Bronze Body, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. So not only is it 300 HP, it takes 30 less damage from attacks. So I'm liking that. We still have Crystal Cave in format, right? So we can heal. It's a metal Pokemon, so it can heal there.
Yeah, you could
All
pair this
right.
with a new Oricorio as well.
Yeah. So that's true. I'm liking this. I can't use the face guard or whatever because it has an ability, but that's all right. We'll work with that. All right. So let's see the attack here. Uh, 3 energies, metal, colorless. Does Nosequake, does 260 damage. This attack also does 30 damage to each of your bench Pokemon. So I'm hurting my Pokemon.
Yeah, although if you do have
Um,
Caparaja EXs on the bench,
they won't get
yeah, and I
damaged
believe
at
the
all.
Terastal effect also stops this. I think.
Well, it's not a terrestrial Pokemon, is it?
No, no, but if you have other, like if you have a Terastal Pokemon on
Oh,
your bench
if
as
you
well,
do, yes. Okay.
which is fine.
Yeah.
Unless that might actually be bad because when you look at the one of the best Terastal Pokemon, which is probably Arcanine EX, it likes having damage counters on it. So, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
I
think this
do.
is like okay. I like the
Mhm.
tankiness of it.
Yeah, it's a very appealing Pokemon to me. It's 3 energy, so you're not going to do Sharo or something like that to heal it off. I can't imagine that's not going to be good for you because you need to be attacking too. 260 damage is a very solid number, especially on such a tanky stage one. I'm kind of surprised by that, right? 300 HP stage one with 260 damage are very nice stats. Obviously, the
Yeah.
30 damage to bench you've got to watch out for, but you just take that into account and a nice tanky deck that does for a tanky Pokemon. It 260 is a very nice amount of damage, more than I,
Yeah.
I would usually see.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a control player.
Hmm.
Although there's one other thing, you can do the Bronzong Cheryl thing. That's not really like
Yeah.
worked, but you could do that. But anyways, I think I really like the idea that you're playing. I love Zoroark control, which is
Oh,
not.
that's right. And the EX stage ones, you're right, you can get back with Zoroark. So I haven't been thinking about that. Good point. Go
Yeah,
on.
they are stage ones. So you can transform into this with Zoroark, and then it has 300 HP, an ability that reduces damage. It's essentially not going to get KO'd, unless by
Right.
like Shin Pao or something. It actually might get KO'd, but hopefully it doesn't. And then you can Cheryl it, and so you can kind of hold
Hmm.
out for a few turns in the game. Unless Capraja like tank some hits, and then that can win you the game until your opponent decks out at the very end of the game. So, or you could honestly try to like stall for a long time, but I don't really
Hmm.
think you have the tools to do that most of the time.
Oh, so maybe I want to do a Spidops Caparaja deck. Maybe. All right.
Exactly.
Now you got me thinking. All right. No, but I do like it. This is an exciting. This is a good Pokemon. It's an exciting Pokemon to me. Whether it's going to be good or not, I don't know. But I like tanky, and it's quite solid. The retreat cost of 4 is not pleasant at all. So they're
No.
kind of they're making us pay a price there for sure.
Yeah. And then now it's time to talk about the best card in the set, which is Boss's Orders, but we're not really going to talk about it. It's going to be printed here.
Well,
Um,
it's not just a reprint. It also, assuming this other text is correct, they're updating the regulation mark. So that is important, right?
yeah, I mean, it's not
So
like
we get it
it's not
around for
even
another
wouldn't have
year later.
rotated. Yeah, but
No, but
that's
but
fine.
that's meaningful. And it
Oh,
and
it's
it's a,
Getsis as well. It's Getsis this time.
exactly, it's a new boss. Don't forget. But yes,
Yeah.
it's right. Okay.
I
So
suppose theoretically it's meaningful that we've had Getsis in the past, and it's not this, but it's fine. Yeah,
so let's talk about the card I know you're hyped for here, right? It is Giacomo, right?
it's
The
Giacomo.
supporter.
I thought it was Giacomo. Is it
Uh,
Giacomo? I think it might be Giacomo. I don't know.
I think it's Giacomo, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't, and it's obviously the video game, but the video game just says the things, right? They don't actually pronounce the names, I don't believe, right? In
Yeah,
your
I don't
language.
think so.
So, but discard a special energy from each of your opponent's Pokemon. So a supporter, you can play 4 of in your deck, only one per turn. Discard a special energy from each of your opponent's Pokemon. It's a strange one, right? I'm not, I'm being silly by saying it's your favorite card here because it's not. So this is if your opponent's. I mean, obviously there's things for control. Could this be in a control deck? Maybe, but most of the time you're clustering the special energy on a Pokemon or two, right? So discarding one. I mean, obviously against Mew though, it is
Yeah, Fusion
very
Strike Mew.
impactful. Yes, but even DTE Mew, right? Because then they have less special energies.
Maybe.
They only have 4 in total
Well,
for the
yeah.
whole
See,
game.
so my big thing is looking at it specifically now standard format is Flannery,
Hmm.
which discards a special energy in a stadium. And right
Yeah.
now, being stadiums are actually a very big deal. So discarding a stadium could be a huge.
Hmm.
And then you discard the special energy. I feel like that's just better than Giacomo, or was it
Giacomo, I
Giacomo?
think.
Giacomo. Um,
It, yeah. And
I
Flannery might be better, and even that doesn't see play. So it
yeah, let's see some
probably
play and in control at least. But um,
if I mean there is another special energy you're getting to. So if people start to spread out a bunch of special energies, it becomes a thing that decks want to do. Then this card can become valuable. I don't think that's where things are though.
yeah, I don't think this is amazing. Next up, we have a card that you're excited for, Grusha.
That's
Um,
true.
draw until you have 5 cards in hand, but if you have no energy attached to any of your Pokemon, draw until you have 7 cards in hand.
That's
Because you
right.
like
I'm always
cast
looking
form.
for a card to make cast form work. Doesn't need any energy, so draw to 7. Wow, let's go. But yeah, I mean it's right.
This is like bad. Um,
Well, it's not great. You have like rapid strike decks with artillery. You play the one that draws to 6, I think is
yeah,
what it
Karina's
does.
focus,
Karina, and you
which
only
even
play
then
it there.
isn't that good.
Right, you only play it there because it's searchable with artillery, and you still don't really like playing it. So that draws 6, which is in between the 5 and the 7. So no, it's not particularly good.
Yeah, I think things like this haven't really ever been that good. Lily's seen some play, but that was a very different time.
Yeah. And now for what I think is the most hyped card from what I've heard is
Fighting Mel.
Iono.
Oh, what?
What?
I don't know. Yeah, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So a supporter brings very similar to N. Each player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom
Yeah,
of
they
their
just took
deck.
N, stuck like a couple of vowels on it, and you're like, let's go, new card.
Right. A little bit of Marnie, but mostly N. And then so you shuffle, put your hand on the bottom of the deck, then each player draws a card for each of their remaining prize cards. So the drawing per prize card, the same as N, except with N, you shuffled in the deck and then drew here. It shuffles to the bottom like Marnie. But the main effect is being like N. So it gives a comeback ability, right? It's if your opponent gets down to like 1 or 2 prizes, you really stick it to them, and it allows you if you're behind and have a lot of prizes, your opponent has like 1 or 2 prizes. It gives you the chance to come back. It's also unlike Roxanne, you can play it early in the game, right? Roxanne, they have to have taken 3 prizes. So it's it's a nice card. It's going to see a lot of play. I think both you can use it early in the game, but then it can help you come back late game.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like Judge and Roxanne combined. Um,
Yeah.
it's just good.
Hmm.
It is quite possibly the best new card in the set. It's generally up there because I mean it's not exactly new, but it's it's very good. I don't think there's too much we have to say about this. It's good in control. It's good in everything. So yeah,
Yeah. Right. It's a comeback card. It's a thing to consider along with Judge and Roxanne and Dex, right? Probably a
yeah.
lot
It
of decks
probably
are
is
going to
over.
play
I
one or
think it's
two of
better
this
than I think it. No, I think the X going to play for this. I think it's
for
like
this, and
I think that this is going to be the best supporter. It's kind of better than research because it draws almost as many cards and you don't lose your cards. It's better than
mhm.
Judge because you draw more cards and you can disrupt more. It's better than Roxanne because you can always play it.
Okay.
Of course, it's not directly better than all those, but I think a lot actually will be playing for this.
Hmm.
Specifically stage 2 decks. I think this helps stage 2 decks a lot.
Yeah, because you take a little bit. to get going, right? So it helps with decks that are a little slower.
Yeah,
So
and also it leaves you with a decently sized hand, so you can hopefully find the Pokemon and the rare candy on the other side.
right, yeah, no, a very strong card for sure. Probably maybe the most impactful card in this set. Um,
I'd
and
actually
then
argue it's not that impactful. Like it's good, but it
well,
actually fulfills the
okay,
same role as Judge
yeah,
and Roxanne.
maybe the most is it the most played card from the deck from this expansion?
I mean, I'd say, yeah,
If
probably.
if most decks are starting to play four, then it could be. But anyway, a major card for sure. I think that's safe to say. Then we get to some items here. Fighting Milk, which is not the most important card in the set, but can be utilized.
What?
So you can play this card only if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. So there aren't a lot of comeback cards, which I do like to see, which can just in general for attacking decks and probably for control decks start to give some options too. I think. And then you heal 60 damage from one of your Pokemon. So it's okay. It's not great though, right? You have to be behind in prizes. Healing six is a solid number. You don't have to discard an energy. It's not your supporter, so it's okay.
Yeah, I don't despise this card. Honestly, in control, this could be okay in Mewtwo V Union decks.
Hmm
To like loop, but it's not that good.
I
Uh,
do think that Blissy's going to get a little better. So I like Blissey. So
yeah.
I put this in Blissey, right? Because partly because I'm planning on falling behind in prizes too when I'm playing
Wait, did
Blissey.
we talk about Mimikyu? No way, that isn't on here. Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a second. So then we have Great Ball. That's getting reprinted. That's
Which
fine.
I like Great Ball a lot. That's the one I like. But again, it's not just getting reprinted. They're updating regulation marks so I can keep playing Great Ball even though I shouldn't be for a extra year longer.
Yeah, yeah. So that's unfortunate. But anyway, so Super Rod, we're getting that reprinted, which is actually a huge deal.
Right.
So this is actually errata slightly.
Yeah.
It says shuffle up to three in any combination of basic Pokemon and basic energy from your disco pal into your deck. It used to be you had to shuffle three, but it
hmm
doesn't really matter.
No, well,
Um,
it's better now, no
it is.
doubt.
I want to say in live when I played it, it was already like this. I don't remember, but so Super Rod is very good, honestly. Because we lost Ordinary Rod, so we had
Right.
essentially no way of item recovering Pokemon in general. So it's just very good.
hmm
I don't think there's too much to say about it other than that.
No, I mean I could say more about how I'm going to play it and play it all and stuff, but I will say to me this is one of the more important cards in the set. On a very short list, this is up there because Ordinary Rod it was a huge loss. This is probably better than that for things. I really like it.
Yeah, I think on my top 10 list, I think I had Super Rod at 4, Iono at 3. So some amazing cards there.
I'll just say the one odd thing, it's getting errated. You can play your old Super Rods, I believe, IRL and in live, but I assume in live they're not going to actually change
I
the
don't think
text
there are
of the
old
old
Super
cards.
Rods on live.
Oh, are they
I
too
think,
old?
yeah, I think they're too old. So.
Okay, I'm not sure if that's
Oh
right or
wait, I
not,
guess I
but
must not wait. Did I not play Super Rod in live? I don't remember.
I
It
think it
doesn't really
had.
matter.
I thought it had it, but the question is, I assume they're not. As a digital game, they could actually errata the text, so it's going to be confusing if the text is different from what the action does, right?
Yeah,
Especially with new players. So, but anyway, that's just an aside.
yeah.
And
But
then we have another reprint here, Superior Energy Retrieval. This one's not errata, and again, it does with the idea of accelerating energy, getting energy to hand. You can use this card only if you discard two other cards from your hand. Then you put four basic energy cards from the discard pile into your hand. You can't choose a card you discarded with the effect of this card. So if you have two energies in the discard, you discard two other energies with two basic energies. From hand, you can only recover the two original basic energies. But a good card. I think it has to be four. So some decks, I think you might like the option not to take four all the time. I also think, just thinking about decks, there's not many ways, particularly with items, to discard cards from hand. Really, Ultra Ball's it. And obviously some decks want to discard. So being able to discard two cards is useful. But then you can't fit. You have to grab four basic energy, which sometimes could be a negative.
yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good in people talking about Chin Pao,
Yeah.
in any other deck where you just want to accelerate lots of energy from hands,
Mhm.
like uh I don't know. I mean, there's like Cherim, which is
You could
fine,
play the
but I can't think
Gardenia's
of it.
Vigor with this,
Well, yeah, we can just play regular and Retrieval
and
too.
that's
Um,
true too.
I think you could pair this with Cherim Ambipom, but that's not very good. So
Right. It's with the water Pokemon. That's really what the plan is for it. I gotta imagine. So, but
yeah,
it's okay, but it's out there. And then another card that's a card that's not a reprint, but a tool that's very similar, and that's Bravery Charm. Your basic Pokemon this card is attached to gets 50 plus HP, so the exact same effect as Cape of Toughness that recently rotated. So very good for basic attacking decks. Cape of Toughness was right part of why the Suicune decks were good in the day. Made Blissey V a solid deck, making it pretty tanky. I'd like to play Entei. Cards like that will want it. So, it will definitely see play in some decks.
yeah. I think it's good. As people are talking about it in Chen Pao, you can put it in Maridon.
Hmm.
It's good, but it is what it is. I think.
Yeah, some decks will want it, but it's not game breaking, and it doesn't make probably bad decks good in it.
No, I don't think it's saving Blissey anytime soon.
Well, there's that other card that's coming out, right? That's
Um,
immune to
yeah, we'll
EXs
talk
as
about
well.
yeah. But anyway,
So
so now we have a few more cards to talk about on this page, and then I
yes,
know we have been going long, but
yes,
we
it
still got
is.
more to talk about. So now
There's a lot to
Artizone,
cover. So yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
Artizone here is a stadium that says once during each player's turn, you may search your deck for a basic Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box and put it straight into your bench, then shuffle your
Hmm.
deck. This is just a very powerful effect.
Yep.
Of course, this helps your opponent as well. So you need to be careful. But it's very good in quite a few decks. So I think Artizone will see
Yeah.
a lot of play. I think it's seen a lot of play in Japan. Um, I think if you're looking for a stadium to play, but you don't want to squeeze in a stadium that but you don't want to like sacrifice consistency. I think Artizone's an
Hmm.
obvious inclusion. Um, yeah, I think it's quite good. Gardevoir will play it. Lost
Hmm.
Box might stick a copy in. Yeah, lots of decks can be playing this. So
Yeah, very good stadium. Obviously, you can't get your evolutions, but even for evolution decks, you got to get the basics in play. So, an include or a consideration for most decks, I would say. So, very good card.
yeah, obviously there are a lot of like V decks and basic EX decks that won't play this, but
Yeah,
I think probably like half the decks in meta are definitely going to be considering this. It's nothing insane though.
yeah. So, and then the last, we get to some energies at the end. One is Jet Energy. Uh, as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides colorless energy. So, one colorless energy. But then the effect here is what gives it some value. When you attach this card from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon, switch that Pokemon with your active Pokemon. So, it gives you a free switch in the turn. Of course, you can only attach it to the bench to get the switch. I assume you can attach it to the active, but it doesn't. You don't get the switching effect then.
Yeah. This is like people are talking about this in Lost Zone,
Hmm.
which is like fine. You use Lost Zone, of course. You have the Comfies, so you use a Comfy in the active. You stick a Jet Energy on your Comfy on the bench. Use that, and then manually retreat off using the Jet Energy, which is fine. It's
Right.
just like a switch. It's okay. I don't think this card's particularly good or particularly bad. People keep talking about it in Lugia as well. You know Weird Ear
Mhm.
V, right? The one that
Oh, that you move it as much energy from the other Pokemon that goes in the active.
yeah,
Is
so you can
that
put
correct?
that with Jet Energy.
Hmm.
Um, but
I've been
I
playing
don't know.
Oink Alone some, and I could see it in that, right? Because I could Cheryl and then throw up I could toss up on the bench, or more importantly, if I can't Cheryl, right, then I can attach, and it only needs one energy to attack potential, and I can make it get in the active.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think people are hyping it up a lot. Like it's good, I
Yeah.
guess, but it's not that
It,
good.
it's similar to an older card, right? And people get excited about things that are like older cards.
Yeah, they're like, ooh,
Just
it does 30
like
for 10, or it does 30 for one energy. This is broken.
or Rayquaza VMAX, and we saw where that ended up. So
Yeah, I mean, Cross Review actually is better than it like saw play. Like people just kind of gave up, and
yeah,
then it started seeing actual play with like Arceus. But the Jet Energy is fine. I think
right.
I don't know. Yeah, I think the next energy card that we're going to talk about is much
Hmm.
better. This I said was the number 2 card in the set is the Luminous Energy here. A special energy that it's essentially like, well, it's kind of like Aurora Energy, Prism Energy, Rainbow Energy. As long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides every type of energy, but only one energy at a time.
Hmm.
Which I actually only recently learned that it does provide multiple types at one time, just only one. It doesn't really matter, but it does that. I thought it only
Okay.
provided one type at a time. It's strange, but
All
anyways,
right.
so it does that. But yeah, it's like Aurora Energy, except with a major downside that if the Pokemon this card is attached to has any other special energy attached to it, it only provides one colorless energy. So that's not ideal, but I think it's very good. I think, and this is actually the one I wanted to bring up with the Wings of Unity or something,
Hmm.
because instead of playing a basic Dark Energy, you could pay it with a Luminous Energy. And of course, that's actually worse because it doesn't give you access to Raihan, Energy Retrieval, Superior Energy
Right.
Retrieval, Super Odd. However, it does give you access to everything else pretty much. You can play like,
Hmm.
well, not everything, but you can play so many other attacks. Notably, there are a lot of very powerful single energy attackers. The
Hmm.
one I'd like to look at is Radiant Charizard. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a 5 energy attacker, but ignoring that, it's essentially a 1 energy attacker, which is amazing. Like, Radiant Charizard literally had its own deck, and it's a Pokemon that can't attack till turn like 3.
Yeah.
But it had its own deck. It's insane. I think Luminous Energy is
Hmm.
going to make Radiant Charizard insane. You can stick it in like whatever. And you're not compromising the rest of your deck. You don't need Fire Energy. You just play this. And it's
Hmm.
amazing in so many decks. Of course, not in decks we want to be sticking multiple Luminous Energy, but I think this is, honestly, I think Luminous Energy is amazing.
Yeah, no, right, right. The Radiant Charizard's definitely an option. It just gives you flexibility for decks, for sure. It gives you the option to tech in different cards in decks also, and also on the blank the stage one that you switch with the stage one from the discard
Zoroark.
pile.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Zoroark, obvious, now you have access to whatever type of energy you want, so you can mix up the Zoroark builds more so too, I would think. So I like it. It opens up deck creativity, and that's a real plus.
Yeah, I can finally play my Zoroark deck. Um,
Except you got to rename it to Zoro Luma Arc.
Luminous Arc. Anyway, so I think it's
Yeah.
very good. I think
Yeah.
it could see play in Lost Box as well. Honestly, been
Hmm.
seeing people talk about it in Lugia as well. We just put in Radiant Charizard. Of course, don't stick Luminous Energy on the same Pokemon you're sticking all your other energy on, but you can just do one Luminous Energy to a Radiant
Right.
Charizard, and have that as a powerful finishing option. Just like you had Aurora Energy with Radiant Charizard as like a previous option, which is okay. But I like it in Lost Zone. I like it in various decks. I think it's
Hmm.
very worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun card. And then the last one here, Reversal Energy. I think what this one you like also. Um, as long as this card is attached to Pokemon, it provides colorless energy. If you have more than 3 prize cards remaining than your opponent, again, another comeback oriented card. If this card is attached to an evolution Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box, this card just provides every type of energy, provides only
Wait, hold on. Do
three
we talk
energy.
about Luxray? Okay, well, we need to talk about that too.
Okay, make a note. So, but provides only 3 energy at a time. So it provides 3 energy of any type and any mix of types you want. Now, it's got significant caveats here, right? You have to be behind in prizes. I can manage that every game, so that's not a problem. But then it only works on evolution Pokemon that don't have a rule box. So, but it really is a very nice option here. I would think it's going to open up a lot more things.
Yeah, I think there are. So honestly, this, in case you didn't know, this is seeing serious play in Japan, and people are very hyped for this for a number of reasons. One, it's good in Gardevoir EX, not on the Gardevoir EX, but on Baby Gardevoir to boost the attack by 90 damage,
Mhm.
which is just insane. And additionally, you can play it with a Luxray that we'll be talking about soon. Um, if you're still here, also thank you for listening. But reversal energy, you can also pair it with a wide variety of other things. There's some interesting
Yep.
control options. I just realized it got dark outside. So
Yeah, it's been going a while here.
yeah. But so reversal energy you can pair with the control attackers. Notably, there's a really interesting Golduck for I believe Astral Radiance, which is similar to a Staraptor or a Sandaconda, allowing you to discard your opponent's like Pokemon in play, which is or remove them, which is really interesting and powerful. There's some other ideas as well. Actually, Orbital from Battle Styles, putting other stage 2s into play. You can pair this with the Reversal Energy. So I think Reversal Energy is the best card in this set. I think it's absolutely insane. I mean, it's 3 energy of any type. Like that's really good. Of course, the downsides are bad, but I think it's
Right.
very good. And also, the Luxray, though, honestly, is one of the best aspects of it as well, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, cards like Reversal Energy, Luminous Energy, and the trainers like Super Rod, Iono. Those are the cards that get me excited because they can go in any deck, and you can just do a lot. Opens up a lot of options to the new cards and the old cards that we already have.
Yeah, I'm so excited for Boss's Orders to finally get into the game.
Great Ball's the big one. Come on.
Yeah. No. Okay.
All
So
right.
now, so you're on the translations page.
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't
Okay.
you call us up?
So I'll
We'll
go
with
to
Mimikyu
Fortress. Fortress EX. I'll just go down the list. So Fortress EX here, as well as there's another EX attacker, and it's lower down. Okay, so I'll just talk about Fortress EX real quick.
Oh, okay.
Which you see it, right?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, go ahead.
With its ability, Explosive Energy. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 5 basic grass energy. Attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Then shuffle your deck. And then this Pokemon is knocked out. So it is a Stage 1 EX that dies, which is not ideal because it gives up 2 prizes. It is Terrestrial, though, which apparently is overlooked in the translation, but it doesn't really matter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they missed that. Yeah.
So, yeah, you can... the idea here is you power up grass attackers. Of course, grass Pokemon are, in my opinion, notorious for being kind of bad, which is not ideal. But in my opinion, I'm going to be looking at Regidraco V-Star. I think Regidraco V-Star might be the best partner. And there's another Pokemon we're going to look at in a second that also has synergy with this. But I think Fortress EX is okay. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it definitely deserves some people to be talking about it because it's an interesting card.
Yeah, and you have these other cards that are comeback cards, right? So you can pair it with that, right? You use 2 of these on turn 2. You get your opponent down to a 2-card hand. What more could you want, right?
Yeah, actually, I did hear some talk about that. A grass control deck where you do this, pair it with Trevenant V, which discards energy, or discards a card from their hand or something, and then you pair it with another new card that we're going to be talking about as well, another very powerful control card.
Right.
But then next up in Wuqian EX here, which is grass type basic EX, and it has an attack here. Well, first of all, it's 1 attack, 220 for 4. Obviously a lot, but you can power it up with Fortress EX, which is how you'd power it up. But then more importantly, Devouring Ivy, which is honestly an insane attack. It does 60 to your opponent's bench Pokemon for each prize they've taken. So if they've taken 5 prizes, that's a 300 snipe, which is just insane. I think this is like very solid. It's awkward to power up, but with Fortress you could do that. Also with other things you could do it. It's very strong.
Yeah, it is good. So I do like it. Again, things with the comeback, this fits in with that. And of course, you got Gardenia's Vigor to power it up in 1 turn. Let's go.
Yeah, but I think it's it's a very powerful card, certainly.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yep. All right, what do we got next?
Let's see. We can skip Chi-Yu. That's kind of boring. Nah, Chi-Yu, we'll talk about Chi-Yu EX. It mills. So here, you read it. Have you found it?
I don't have it. No. What type is it?
It's fire. It's the fish one.
Okay, Chi-Yu. No, I have it here. So it's another basic Pokemon. So burning Envy for 1. Discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. So mill deck, let's go. I love mill decks, but that's probably not what you want because you don't like mill decks. So let's see. Fire.
I kind of, I like 1 mill card in a deck. It's okay,
It's not. Sometimes that option is useful, but let's see. So for fire, it's a 190 basic Pokemon. 2 prize EX is an EX2. So 2 energy, does Flame Surge, 100 damage. Choose up to 3 of your bench Pokemon. For each of these Pokemon, search your deck for a basic fire energy and attach it to that Pokemon. Then shuffle your energy. Oh, this is like an improved Blaziken VMAX, which I didn't think could get better, but this might be even better than that. I know you hate Blaziken, and I kind of like it, so that's why I bring it up. But no, okay, so all right, the 100 damage, I wasn't excited, but accelerating 3 energies, I do like that. That's it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's very solid. You need to power it up before you use it, which is kind of not good. But I think it's
Right.
okay. I like the idea. Fire is kind of weird, but actually a synergy with the Armor Rouge to move energy around. I think it's okay. I don't love it. I don't hate it either.
Yeah, I don't right now it doesn't jump out what I'd want to do with it, but it'll open up options.
Yeah. Next up, I think we should talk about Titan. Which is a stage 1 water Pokemon here. With this attack, Special Horn for water colorless. It does 80, but if it has a special energy attached, it does 140 more. Normally so it does 220. Normally this card would be overlooked as just bad. However, with in a Zoroark based deck, it's actually very solid with the reversal energy, allowing you to hit 220 for one attachment, which is very good. 220 is a nice number to hit. 180
Yeah.
HP is a decent chunk of HP. I think this Titan's like very solid in Zoroark. And even not in Zoroark, you could play it as well.
Yeah, I mean the tricky thing is just playing like if you're a reversal energy deck, you better be behind and then win the game with that attack, right? Because all of a sudden then your reversal, if you like get ahead or catch up on prices, you can't attack the next turn, right?
Yeah, I
And
think you want to
kind
have
of
some reversal attackers and some like not reversal energy attackers.
yeah. So but yeah, no, that's solid.
And then
180
the
on a
one,
single prize.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then another, the Pokemon one below it here, Veluza, which is in my opinion the most undervalued card from the set. I think it's okay. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's worth running. But I've heard no other talk about it. And I
Hmm.
suppose we probably should have talked about it sooner, but that's fine. So Slim
Yeah.
Corkscrew for 4 watercolorless colors, costs 120, but if you have no cards in hand, it's only 1 water energy. So this I like with there are various ideas. You could do Iridot, you could use Peony to discard your hand. You can use also,
Yeah.
what's the idea? And then you can draw after with Radiant Venusaur, and you can also pair it with the Luminous Energy to fulfill its attack cost. Honestly, I really like this Veluza. I think it's not amazing, but I think it's like a solid early game attack option. In my opinion, it's very similar to Cramorant. It's not insanely powerful, but its HP is actually, it does more damage and has more HP than Cramorant. So it actually
Oh,
trades decently. I think it's like solid.
the problem is you can't you what? You have no cards in hand to do this, right? If you're
Yeah, but
attacking with one energy. So even if you do something, you don't have any cards for the next
but then
turn.
but then you Radiant Venusaur, and then you draw 4 cards, which is good.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it's probably it's going to be harder to set up the Cramorant, right? I think that's fair to say.
I don't know honestly. I don't think it's hard to attack with in Cramorant. I think it's actually easier to attack with. But then you need some more stuff. So
All
um,
right,
I think it's about as easy to attack with Cramorant. People don't always attack with Cramorant turn 1.
that's true.
But it
All right.
does leave you more vulnerable as well. Like you don't really have too much going on after that, so you need to be
Mhm.
careful. But I like this Veluza. I don't think it's amazing, but as I said, I think it's okay.
Okay, it's interesting. All right, what
Next
what do we
up,
got?
okay, Luxray. This is actually very important and very good.
This is the lightning.
Yeah, have you found it?
No,
And I
keep
think
going. Yeah, I
so.
got it now.
Okay, so can you read it? I want to hear what your thoughts are on this
All
card.
right, Luxray. So its ability, Vibrant Flash. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your hand and you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, you may play this Pokemon to your bench. So that's quite nice, right? Again,
Yeah, it's
another
very good.
comeback mechanic card, which is really the kind of the theme of the set. It seems like to me.
Yeah, and also
Um,
honestly, in Scarlet and Violet as a whole, we do see, as we saw, like Defiance Band, which is actually really
mhm.
interesting and good in these decks.
Yeah. So, and then the attack for Lightning colorless. Wild Charge does 180 damage. That's okay. It's a stage 2, so I'm not thrilled by that. And it does 20 damage to itself. It's 150, so it takes it to 130. You don't want to evolve into it, probably, right?
Yeah,
I don't.
probably not.
So you're not playing the basics. It's only when you're behind. It is 3 energy, which I don't love. I guess you have the
Reversal.
item.
Oh, what?
What's that?
No, reversal
Electric
engine.
generator.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Or revert. Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Reversal energy
People are
pays the
playing it
cost
with
too.
reversal energy.
Oh,
Um,
you're right. It's an evolution, so that pays for it. It's a special energy you got to get in hand. So I'm not I'm not in love with it, but it's interesting, is what I'll say.
Yeah, it's interesting because you get the power of reversal energy, but on essentially a basic Pokemon, which is really useful. Because there's the Snorlax that says he's playing Lost Zone,
Yeah.
right? It's like that. It hits the
Hmm.
same damage. It's
Yeah.
slightly different, but with reversal energy. Now, I think it's very solid. I honestly like this Luxray a ton. I think this is. I mean, I'm not like massively in love with it, but I think it's pretty solid overall.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. So if you're playing reversal energy, you got to be behind in prizes anyway. Even if it's not a lightning deck, you can toss a copy or two in this in. So yeah, it's intriguing.
Yeah. And then I guess we can skip Belly Bolt EX. There's some other EXs that aren't amazing. But then there's the Gothitelle. So let's talk. I'll read this out with its
Okay.
ability, and then I guess you can look at the Mimikyu as well. But Gothitelle here, both of them psychic. Gothitelle is a stage 2. With its ability
Yeah.
Star Reading. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck and choose one of them, and then put the card you chose there on top of the deck and the other card on the bottom of their deck. So this gives you control of your opponent's top deck. Very useful in control-based decks.
Hmm.
I think it's nice. I think I'm looking at this in orbital-based control, where you want to get lots of stage 2s in play. And then
Yeah.
its attack here actually isn't the worst thing in the world, although you might
No.
think it's bad. But Psych out 120 for Psychic Colorless, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. Actually, I like the effect of the attacker more, allowing you
Hmm.
to disrupt them, and you can do this with a reversal energy as well.
You know, I like it. Certainly for control, the top deck, what they're going to top deck next turn. You have some control over it, limited obviously because it's one of two cards, but that's useful. And then discard. And if you're playing control, the option of discarding a card from hand is useful too. So yeah, I do like it. It's stage two. So is it going to work well enough? I don't know.
Yeah. Um, and then the Mimikyu, right? This is very good. Oh, Safeguard is the ability translation. So we've seen this before. This ability name, presumably.
Hmm.
So prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks of your opponent's Pokemon EX and V.
Yeah.
We see this all the time, and it's good because it walls off
Hmm.
these Pokemon. I think this Mimikyu is very solid. And its attack here is Psychic Colorless. Put 7 damage cards on your opponent's active. That's not great. But I think, there's Blissey Miltank as a deck. Now you can do Blissey Mimikyu, which isn't actually great. But, I think this Mimikyu is, a very solid option for many decks.
Yeah. Yeah. It is good. I mean, the attack to one of being psychic's not great, so I
Yeah,
don't
I'd say,
love it.
Lost Zone would probably be, the place for this. Or with Raihan plus a Luminous Energy in some type of deck like that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, would a Gardevoir deck ever want this in some matchups? Because obviously they can get the energy
Yeah,
on
I think I don't
easily.
hate it there.
Like put one in the deck, it may be a game. It may come through in the right matchup.
Yeah. And now I think it's actually time we talk about Tinkaton. We haven't talked about this card yet, which is okay, but it's the one which abilities discard. Well, we talked about it briefly, but discard 1, draw 3 cards as a stage 2.
Right. Hmm.
And then Tinkaton EX, which is not here because I don't know. It's coming out at some point. It's here, I
Okay.
believe, as exclusively an alternate art, so it's not translated here. But
Yeah.
its attack here, the main one you're looking at, well, first of all, it's a stage 2 EX with 300 HP, so not the best stats. But then for 2 colorless, you do the attack Big Hand, which does 30 for each card in your hand, which is actually very strong. That's a lot. That's a lot of damage. Or that can be a lot of damage.
Okay. I mean, I don't see the card at all, so
But
talk about it.
yeah, so, well, 30 for each card in your hand. That's very
And
good.
I don't see the card,
No,
so I don't see
I
the.
know, it's not there. I just
You're
told you.
reading it. Okay. I thought you were looking. I thought that's fine.
No,
Go ahead.
I am looking at it, but it's not there.
Not on this site.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Good.
that's a lot of damage there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
30. Mhm.
so 30 for each card in your hand can be very good.
It can.
So
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I think it's it's solid. Um,
Yeah. It's not a bad number.
yeah, but I don't know, nothing too much to say about that one.
Okay.
But it has synergy with the Tinkaton as well. They evolve from the same thing. So
Yeah, so it's an
um,
alt art now, and then it's coming out as like a special product, right?
yeah. But so yeah, you can use the Tinkaton to draw cards, and then the Tinkaton EX to do big damage.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Annihilate EX I'll talk about here, which is also not there. So its
Okay.
attack here, angry. Well, first of all, it's a stage 2 fighting EX. And do you know the other Annihilate in standard?
I don't remember it right now.
Okay, it does 70 for each prize card your opponent's taken. for one fighting.
Okay.
So that's very powerful. That can one-shot stuff as soon as they've taken 4 prizes, even 3 prizes.
Yeah.
It's very solid. But then Annihilate EX here, Angry Grudge, put up to 12 damage counters on this Pokemon. This stack does 20 damage for each damage counter you placed on it. You placed in this way, so that can do up to 240 damage for 1 fighting energy on this stage 2 EX. Of course, damaging itself isn't great, but it's 1 energy. It can hit hard.
Wait, read me the attack again.
So it does put for 1 fighting, put up to 12 damage counters on this Pokemon.
Okay.
This attack does 20 times the amount of damage counters you placed on this way.
Okay, and there was a ruling on it. What's the HP on it, by the way?
320.
320. So not that it matters, but potentially you can knock yourself out with the damage. It's legal to do.
And you can do more than you can do. Like
you can do 350. You can keep going even if you get to your 320 damage. If your starting level's high, you can keep going on all the way above 320.
Okay.
The damage counters. That's a ruling. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, so I think this is fine. It's all right. I figure it's worth a mention.
Okay.
It's fine. I honestly like the single prize Annihilate, so that's good. I think this one's fine. Now there's, I think, a few more. Garganacle's getting a card. I'm very excited for that. Garganacle, Minecraft Donkey Kong is my favorite card, or my favorite Pokemon. Its card's okay. Oh, Glimora. We need to talk about Glimora, though. A fighting type stage 1 with its attack for 1. Well, first of all, the basic has Ascension. You know that one, right? Attack.
Right. You can, when you attack, you evolve to that turn.
So this is kind of like Galarian Weezing. It's supposed to be like it, but its ability is nowhere near as good. But it says when this Pokemon is knocked out, you flip a coin. If heads, your opponent can't take any prizes for it. And then attack your Floral Spite. Your opponent's active is now poisoned, and instead of doing 1, you do 6 damage counters every turn. So that's quite strong. You can even boost this with Radiant Hisuian Sneasler.
Yeah, I don't love it. I would think if you have a fighting deck that needs some setup turns, you put it in that to kind of sit in the active while you're setting up your bench. That's where I would see some value in this.
I think this is okay. I think it's like a silly one. It's clearly reminiscent of Galarian Weezing, so I figure it's worth a mention. And it might see play. I think it's interesting. It's annoying, but it's kind of cool. Another one that is, why are so many of these missing on the original page? Anyways, Paldea and Clodsire EX is actually very solid here. We've seen this effect before, but it's an ability that says if there's a stadium in play, you may leave your opponent's active poisoned. You compare this. I guess one Pokemon I forgot to talk about before was Alolan Raticate. So this one, that one it's a stage 1 it came out in Pokemon Go. For 3 colorless, you got to put your opponent's active down to 10 HP. But now you can do this with just reversal energy, and then poison them with Paldea and Clodsire EX here, and then they just die. So you instantly KO anything, assuming they don't have Fusion Strike energy or Espeon VMAX in play. But aside from stuff like that, you just instantly KO anything, which is very good.
And are you going to be able to build a donk deck with this now, too, or no?
Well, not really donk. It's a stage 1, and the other one's also
that's
stage
true.
1.
It's a stage
and you need to
1,
be down at prizes, so...
And the attack, 200 damage for 3 energies, not terrible.
Yeah,
although you might not get to attack the next turn.
Yeah. And then, let's see. I think there's some other ones that are, like, okay, but we can kind of ignore them. Look at the Grafaiai. Tell me if you want to talk about that one. That's a dark...
Tell me what
dark stage 1.
What's it evolved from? Because
From Strudel.
Okay,
I'll let you find that.
All right. Well, I'll read it because until I read it, I don't know. So
okay,
So dark energy, spit poison. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. All right, nothing exciting there. 1 dark again. Colorful Graffiti, 40 damage times damage. Discard a number of basic energy cards from your hand. This does 40 damage for each type of basic energy you discarded this way.
Yeah.
Okay, so by
it's
different
like
types. Yeah. Smeargle was a basic though, right?
Yeah, it was 2 colorless though, so.
Right, so this is 1 dark. I'm trying to think. No, it's interesting. I do think it's interesting. I don't know that it's good or not, but it is interesting. Is it its own deck? Does it go in something else? I guess it's its own deck. It's not going to be great, probably though, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, this is where the one that you recover superior energy retrieval, recover 4 energy on a turn starts to be important. But you're still,
yeah,
even with 4 of them, you're doing 160, and you need to stage one and the shenanigans. So the payoff's probably not going to be enough.
yeah. So, and then I want to talk about the Corviknight as well. This one's pretty. It seems bad, but its attack here, for 1 metal on a stage 2 acceleration. That's kind of a weird attack name, but it does 50. If your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by damage from this attack, prevent all effects, including damage done to this Pokemon during the next turn. My eyes are on this because of its weakness on Comfey, meaning that you can easily take that out and then be immune, and this could be in a pseudo control based deck as a counter to Lost Zone. You could also pair it with something like Defiance Band or whatever to one shot a Sableye. And kind of cut through a Lost Zone deck with this Corviknight. So I think that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, and that obviously it's a stage two, which isn't great. And the second attack, 3 energy does 200 damage. Metal colorless, which you can pay for with the whatever that when the special energy is correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Potentially, because 200 damage is a nice number. You discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. So okay.
Okay, and then we actually have a very, very good card to talk about, a Dragon type here, Noivern EX. So you want to read this one out?
Sure, Nova EX here, a stage one, 260 HP. Let's see, colorless. You convert flight, 70 damage. Put your opponent's during your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon. So a nice walling off of basics, easier to set up than your flying Pikachu, right? Or
Yeah, a little bit.
you can do it for 1 DTE, right? So that part's easier.
Yeah.
You're not doing as much damage, but that's not the point of it. And you have no weakness as a dragon type. Let's see.
Oh,
The
and
other
no
attack,
retreat as well, which is nice.
oh yeah, it's a pivot, and it's yeah. And 260 is a decent number of HP. And then for like psychic, dark, dominant, echo, 140 damage during your opponent's next turn. They can't play any special energy or stadiums from their hand, which is the same effect that the Shadow Rider V had, right?
Yeah.
This is not an evolution, but it does much more damage. I think that one did 10. This one does
Yeah.
140.
And if you want to lock him out completely, you can do it is the same typing kind of. So you can do Shadow Rider Calyrex V turn 1 and then do Noivern EX from there on and be in a very solid spot.
Right, because right, there are decks that's very harmful too. So both attacks, I think, have a potential value.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this specifically in Regidrago V-Star. I think this is a really nice option. Previously, Regidrago's options were pretty much just big damage, hit through effects, which is fine, but not that impressive, and also reduced damage taken a little bit, but mostly it was just damage. Now you actually have toolbox options with Noivern EX to be copied by Regidrago, and I think both of these attacks are very solid, versatile attacks.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And I think that's about it. There's some like other okay ones, but nothing insane here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'm trying to look. Oh no, there's one more card. The special. Do you have something?
Go ahead. No.
Yeah, we're not done yet. Therapy
All right,
energy.
we're trying to get there.
The
Another
very
energy.
bottom card. Yeah. This one's actually being hyped up a lot by other people. I personally don't think it's good, but it provides a colorless energy. But then the Pokemon this card is attached to can't be asleep, confused, or paralyzed. People are really hyping this up in Lugia to be paired with the Snorlax, which puts itself to sleep. And struggles to wake up. I don't know. I don't think it's amazing. You can also accelerate it with a Wigglytuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, paralysis in particular is super powerful, right? That was part of with that. I'll just throw that Claydol deck. Paralyzing was a tremendous effect. So if that becomes more prominent, the other effects are important too. It's useful. I don't know how much play it'll get, but it definitely has keep it in mind is what I'd say.
Yeah. So I think that's it. We could talk some more, but I don't know if you can talk anymore.
I don't. I think we've run out of things to say by now. Probably.
I have plenty to say. Don't worry.
So I think our audience has run out of patience to listen to us. So I think we should wrap things up, right? So why don't you close us out?
So that was a little while, but I hope you liked it. We're trying to improve the podcast. I hope that was I think we said some solid stuff there. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed. As always, check us out on YouTube. Specifically, comment on YouTube if you're interested in hearing it. You can subscribe there, or you can, I believe, follow us or whatever it's called on the various podcast platforms. Yeah, we enjoy doing this, so we hope you enjoy listening as well. To the best Pokemon podcast. And yeah, I've been 10 Types, joined by Uncommon Fossil. So check us out on YouTube. Check us out on. That's about it.
Right.
And of course the podcast. We enjoy listening though. We enjoy making it. We hope you of course enjoyed, and hope you tune in next time. And see ya.
Take care.